Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. Long time no see. Sorry the channel's been pretty dead lately, but we've been making some big changes. Sold the Raptor, been downsizing a lot so we can hopefully get into a new place. But today we have a faulty wheel bearing on the Jeep here that's got the Superduty axles, so stick around, we're gonna get it fixed. So I've been noticing as I've been driving, it's been a little bit noisy. This thing's always kind of a little bit noisy. I don't have any carpet inside of it to deaden the sound, but it's just been a little bit louder. Thought it was some tire chop, but I decided yesterday to just lift it up on the jack and give the tires a wiggle, and look what I found. So she's toast. These wheel bearings are Mevotech off of Rock Auto. They barely lasted a little more than 10,000 miles. Really only the driver's side's bad, so we're gonna swap it out. I'm again using another cheapo AutoZone wheel bearing, but I mean, if they're only gonna last 10,000 miles, I'd rather buy the cheapest ones I can get, and if they're nice and close and local, that's even better. So basically what I'm going to show you today is how to do brakes and a wheel bearing on an 05 up Superduty axle. You may think, yep, this isn't an F250, but everything under here is, so stay tuned, and it's super easy and super quick. First step, take your wheels off with whatever flavor lug nuts you have. Next step is to take these 3 Torx bolts out of here. I wish I could tell you what size Torx bolt it is, but the markings are worn off this. I'm going to go ahead and take the steering off. That way it's easier to move the knuckle around and get to the bolts on the back of the hub. I've also grown gloves. On a regular Super Duty axle without these high steer arms, you're going to have a tapered slot that the tie rod goes into. You can use a pickle fork or just apply upward pressure on it, or downward pressure, whichever way they come out, and just whack it with like a rubber mallet, and they'll pop right out. Alright, flipping back around to the caliper. I'm going to try and just take it off with the caliper and bracket at the same time. It's a 21mm socket. They are super tight, so you probably need a breaker bar to get them loose, which I've already done. Pull everything off. Go ahead and set it somewhere it's not going to fall, and pinch your brake hoses. And off comes the rotor. If you were just doing brakes, you would actually pull the caliper off from the bracket, and that way you can get the brake pads out, but looks like mine are still doing pretty good. Next up is going to be the ABS wire. Mine's still good. I don't really feel like untangling it from all the way up in there. Odds are, if your old wheel bearing was bad enough, it probably took out the ABS sensor as well. But I'm going to take this one out carefully, inspect it, and I have no ABS lights right now, so hopefully it still works. You can also hear how bad this bearing is. That bolt was a 5mm Allen key, by the way. Go ahead and pop this up and out. Yep, still looks pretty good. Grease in there looks a little brown. Could be why it failed so early. Gonna hang that up out of the way. I'll probably forget it. All right, let's tackle this hub lock out. When I put this axle together, I didn't have the correct gasket for this, so I RTV'd it. And now future Pete is paying for that decision. So let's get a flathead screwdriver and see if I can break that apart. So normally this would obviously just pop right off with the proper gasket, but like I said, I used RTV on this last. Oh, look at that, came right off. This side out. All you gotta do is pull straight out on it. Oof. A little crusty in there. Everything else is looking pretty good though. I'm gonna end up cleaning this up because it just got all sorts of dirt and grime in it, and I don't want them failing, but these have been pretty good so far, knock on wood. So the next thing you're gonna need is, I don't even know if you can see it in there. There is a big, gigantic snap ring that can be super hard to get out of there. So before you go too far on this project, make sure you go on and get a pair of these. You can get them on Amazon. They're Knipex, I don't know. Here's the part number you're gonna need. If you can't read that, I'll leave it down in the description. But these are pretty much the only pliers you can get that gigantic snap ring out of there with, because see how they're angled out a little bit and they're big. And when you squeeze them, they open. The little tiny snap ring pliers that you can get from like AutoZone and Harbor Freight and stuff, not gonna do it. You need a good pair. You'll struggle and struggle and struggle. You'll get a pair of these, you take it right out in 2 seconds. Get lined up with both pins there. A good squeeze. Oh, it's a big one. Out she comes. Easy as that. All right, now we're on to the wheel bearing. So you can see on this side there's 2, and then there's 2 on the other side. I've already broken them loose, but they'll probably be pretty tight. This is where you'll thank the person who put it together before you for using anti-seize. Flip it this way so I get the other 2. That's kind of why I took the steering off. Makes it a little bit easier to move things around. Whole stud came out with that one. That's okay. If you're not planning on replacing this bearing, don't hit it with a hammer, but since it's junk, why save it? And that's it. It's unfortunate that this bearing is bad because it looks brand new, but it's making some noise and she's loose. And as you can see, there's definitely been some water ingress. Not sure what I'm going to do about that. It's definitely this seal is leaking water in and then trapping it essentially. You don't really need that seal unless you want to keep the vacuum hubs. Obviously I don't have that on this. I wish I knew that at the time. I probably wouldn't have installed that seal because this bearing is sealed from the backside anyway, so it doesn't do anything besides trap water in between the two and wear them out. And it is super notchy. It is bad. So let's clean this up and slap the new one in. All right, I've gone and cleaned everything up. I'm sorry if there's a little bit of fan noise. It's getting hot out here. But I cleaned everything up, greased it up, anti-seized everything. If you live anywhere near the Northeast or you go in mud and water, I would suggest doing the same. As you can see, I cleaned this all up, put anti-seize all along the outside, greased up the inside, greased up my lockouts, and I threw a whole bunch of grease on here in slight hopes that it'll stop the corrosion. I mean, for 200 bucks, it's not the end of the world, but I'd like to not do this in another 10,000 miles, but it is what it is. That's what I built this Jeep for. One thing to note, if you're using a DriveWorks unit bearing, they don't come with the nuts. It comes with the studs and the C-clip and the O-ring for the outer hub, but no nuts. So keep that in mind, especially if yours are all rusty and crusty. I think the original ones on this axle, when I bought it, they looked like acorns by the time I got them off. I should also note they're the same size as the caliper bolt. So what was that, 21 millimeter, I believe, to take them off. So let's slap this back together. All right, back on with the hub. Make sure you orient the ABS hole up top. A little push. You'll also, on a factory axle, have a brake disc shield here. Pretty self-explanatory. It just sandwiches in between here and the hub and the knuckle. No big deal. Just don't forget to put it back on. Mine were all rusted out, and I have these aftermarket high steer arms on it, so there wasn't any room for them. All right, so I got it most of the way started. There's an O-ring in there that is pretty much seated all the way around. So I'm just gonna go and alternate sides, suck this thing in. Really what you're fighting is the pressure you're creating inside the knuckle. So you could just go pop this tube off, but it'll work. All right, once you zipped all those down, pull out your torque wrench, set it to 133 foot-pounds for these wheel hub nuts. That's 180 Newton meters for your weirdos overseas. I'm just saying, back-to-back World War champions use the Imperial system. All right. Much better. Now we can go ahead with the reassembly. Now, through the wonders of movie magic, we're gonna put this clip back before I put this RTV on, because we're gonna pretend that I didn't forget to put the clip in and then put the hub together. So let's do that. All right. Here she's seated in there. And just like last time, I don't have the proper gasket for this. So I'm going to go with a nice slathering of red gasket maker. In you go. Beautiful. Torque specs on these, I think, are something super low, like 8 foot-pounds. So, click, click, click. Don't forget about your ABS wire here. See, you all thought I was going to forget. But I took a little bit of persuasion. I had to tap it in there. The hole was just a little bit too tiny for the ABS sensor. I don't know if that's an issue with this hub being aftermarket or what, but I also have different ABS sensors in this. I believe these are actually out of a Dodge, so that could be why. But they fit in the other hubs perfectly. Who knows? Now, one thing I like to do, because I don't have backing plates on this, is I don't want this wire getting chafed by the rotor because it comes pretty close. So grab some Gorilla Tape, something with fiber in it. I'm gonna run it around the hub a couple times. Hold it down. There you go. I don't have to worry about it. Just make sure you use something with fiber because this tape does break down and, you know, gets old. But the fiber kind of sticks around. All right, back on with the brakes. Oh yeah. These caliper bracket bolts are 203 foot-pounds, which is 275 Newton meters. And that is pretty much that. Let's go back on with your steering, throw your wheels back on, and that's it. Not too bad. If I wasn't filming, probably could have done this in 20 minutes with grabbing the tools and everything. So if you have any questions, please let me know. I know I breezed over a couple things, but honestly, it's pretty self-explanatory when you have your hands on it. So good luck. Thanks for sticking around, guys.